I want to shift to a slightly different topic that is also very important for life expectancy that I know you're passionate about. And I know ahead of time this is a very controversial topic. But, I did a documentary for Netflix called Live to 100, where I named Singapore a sixth blue zone. Why Singapore? Because in one lifetime, they've seen life expectancy jump by 25 years of extra life since the 1960s. They have the highest, healthiest life expectancy in the world. And it is a melting pot, just like America. They don't have better genes than we do. They don't have superfoods. They don't have magic pills. You pay for your own health care there like you do in the United States. But one of the things they don't have, and we do, is guns. Individuals cannot own guns. They're completely illegal and very severe penalties for individuals to own a gun. And last year, they had a really bad year when it comes to gun death. In the entire nation, there were 3 gun deaths. Meanwhile, in the United States, we lost 55,000 Americans to gun deaths. Love them or hate them, guns are expensive when it comes to life expectancy. We lose about a half a year of life expectancy in this country to gun death. And for Black people, it's closer to 4 years. So gun ownership is worse for Black people than eating hamburgers and junk food is in many cases. We have a constitutional right to bear arms in this country, and it's a freedom, and people deserve freedom. But we also have to realize there is a very deep cost in life and the misery that ensues. And I just love to hear about the work you're doing about gun control and why it's important to you.
I've never heard anyone who wants to protect the American people, as you so beautifully just laid out the consequence. I've never heard anyone who wants to advocate for and fight for the safety of the American people bring up arguing constitutional right. I've never heard of someone saying, we need to go to everyone's houses and get their guns, which was done in Australia and successfully for many, many years. And no one's going to have a gun. Anyone who's ever wanted to effect change to protect the American people has said, we have a right to bear arms in this country. It is how we access them and the kind of gun that we should all be having real conversations about. And when you look at the number of NRA members who are in support of an assault weapons ban, it gets really interesting.
In what way?
That there's an agreement across the line, across parties, that, to go deer hunting or protect your family, you don't have to have an AR-15.
Which is an automatic rifle.
Yeah. And if there are weapons that have been used by the military in war, is that the weapon that should be easy access for some 15-year-old who then uses it in high school in a mass school shooting? And I've heard the argument, well, look at in the UK, there was just some crazy guy with a knife. So let's say we didn't have guns. Okay. And tragically, there was the attack or stabbing of 3 individuals. No fatality, not losing 33 kids in a matter of seconds. And this is the most devastating tragedy as a cultural community that we have not figured out a way to come together, looking at not only assault weapons bans, how about just background checks, the conversation, continual conversation and debate around background checks, around access to mental health information when you're talking about youth having access to guns, getting guns online, gun shows. These are all the conversations that have been had back and forth instead of coming together to have the conversation. We were talking about our friend Matthew McConaughey, and he and his amazing wife have did some remarkable service for this country in a very centered and grounded way. He, as a Texan who was trained on a gun and given a gun as a young boy, having the conversation around how we are going to keep our communities safe after the tragedy at Uvalde. So much like a few other issues in this country, the tragedy that there is a divide around life expectancy is insane. The fact that we cannot come together and solve this and protect our own children. You know, I remember the breaking point for me was when I had a 5-year-old daughter come home to describe to me the simulated lockdown that she had to go through in kindergarten, where you're teaching this little girl in the world to have voice and speak up. If you feel afraid or someone's being inappropriate, if there's someone scary, use your voice. You yell, you say stop, you do what you need to do. She comes home and says, Mommy, I'm confused. They told me if a scary man were to come in and they lock the door, we're supposed to go into the closet and be really, really quiet and say nothing.
The terror.
Don't use your voice. Be silent so he can't find you. But you said if someone did something, you know, to yell or say stop or, you know, you're just like, what is happening? And that these babies, literal babies, are having to simulate a mass school shooting at school.
So what's the sweet spot? You've marinated in the research and the issues. What's the sweet spot between freedom to bear arms and eliminating the unnecessary death? What is there a law? Is there a tax? Is there a bringing people together to just talk about it?
I think bringing people together to agree, obviously, would
It's hard
be
to get people to agree on anything these days.
Yeah, because it you know, tragically, we've been waiting, and this is a responsibility of both parties in U.S. government. There has never been a moment when we've been able to agree, even on access to guns. You know, again, online access, gun shows, and background checks. So even starting there, separate from an assault weapons ban, my daughter with Congressman Dean Phillips, when we were walking around at the congressional building with many families from around the country who'd gone through great tragedy, primarily due to school shootings, I was so impressed by my daughter talking to a very conservative congressman. And he said, you know, assault weapons, that's never going to happen. Never in our lifetime. If you want to talk about background checks, you know, maybe we'll eventually, you know, that's a conversation we can continue to have. How can we have more restrictions to protect people? Because no smart, safe gun owner has ever had a problem waiting 14 days to access a gun. No hunter has had an issue with that, right?
Yeah.
So why suddenly can anybody walk in to anywhere, go to a gun show and get a gun, and you know, even a minor, and all the issues that have happened? And so this man was very confronting with my daughter. She was 17 at the time. And he was saying assault weapons, there aren't more, which is always the case, you know, there aren't more deaths because of assault weapons, which is an insane concept and untrue. But he started combating her with his facts to teach the little girl about why that's never going to happen. And she said, okay, I hear you. I have one question. This is your place of business, right? And he said, yeah. She said, and this town is your place of business, Washington, D.C.? He said, yes. She goes, and you want to be safe when you go to work, right? He said, yes. She said, do you think I have the right to feel safe when I go to school? And he said, yes. She goes, okay, it's interesting that DC has an assault weapons ban.
And I can't bring an assault rifle to your work.
Yeah. So there's an assault weapons ban at the home of our country.
Wow.
But our country is not protecting its children with the same
Do
protection.
as I say, not as I do.
So I think as a country, we need to ask that question, right?
That is a big one.
Why is it there? Who started it? How did that happen? Because assault weapons are safe? So I was very impressed by her.
What a smart little girl.
Yeah.
Or, big girl now. But
But
that's so clever.
There's a lot.
And
but
she's very calm-headed about it, too.
Yeah.
So if you like that clip, there's a lot more where that came from. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you won't miss our new videos as they come out each week.